Hello and welcome to Planet 40k. Today we're going to be discussing the new psychic abilities within the new Deathwatch Supplement. So the new supplement has recently been released and now it's updated its psychic abilities list, and they've aptly named them the Xenopurge Discipline. There are 6 psychic powers here for your cycles within the Deathwatch faction to select from. You can opt to use the Space Marine Codex powers instead of these if you wished, but for today we'll be touching on the Deathwatch powers. So the first power is Premorphic Resonance, which is a blessing. It's got a warp charge value of 6, and if manifested, select one friendly Deathwatch unit within 18 inches of the Psyker, and until the next psychic phase you can do the following. So any Overwatch attacks made by the unit will score hits on 5+. If the unit starts the fight phase within engagement range of enemy models, it can fight first in that phase, and each time a melee attack is made by a model in this unit, add 1 to the attack's hit roll. So it feels a bit like being in defensible terrain, having the +1 to your hits and the Overwatch of 5s, but you're actually getting both, and also fighting first is pretty sweet too. So power 2, Fortified with Contempt, which is a blessing power. It's got a warp charge value of 6. You select one friendly Deathwatch infantry or Deathwatch biker unit within 18 inches of the Psyker, and until the start of the next psychic phase, each time a model in the unit loses a wound, roll a d6, and on a 5+ that wound is not lost. So effectively a feel no pain roll here. It only works on bikers and infantry, but it does make your Deathwatch feel a bit dirty, almost Nurgle-like, with their disgustingly resilient. And now as your guys are at like 2 or 3 wounds a model, it's going to be a huge power. Imagine a 10-man unit of Thunderhammer Storm Shield Terminators with a 2+, 4+ invuln, and then a 5+ feel no pain on top of that with 3 wounds a pop. That's an extremely tough, resilient unit to shift off the table. And only warp charge value of 6 as well, so it's pretty good. Psychic ability 3 is Neural Void, which is a malediction and has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. You subtract 1 for attack characteristics for the models in the unit, and each time a charge is declared from that unit, only the closest enemy unit can be selected as a target for the charge. So now this may need an FAQ because there's a few things wrong with this. So first of all, it doesn't say the closest eligible unit. So rules as written now would suggest that you could have sort of flyers hovering around the unit being the closest model to prevent your opponent from actually charging anything. But I'm sure that once this is fixed with an FAQ, it'll be okay. Also, the removing an attack from the enemy rule, they haven't added to a minimum of 1, which they usually do with this kind of rule. So does this mean at the moment when you've got a model with 1 attack only, it takes it down to 0? I mean, this power might need a bit of a rewrite. So just before we continue guys, I just wanted a quick plug to have a look at our Patreon service. Links in the description. It's where you get early access videos from the channel. You also get to vote on polls that dictate the channel and what videos we do or what unit reviews we do. The heavy support patrons onwards get their name in the outro. And if you don't like using external websites such as Patreon, we also have a YouTube members area which mirrors the Patreon service with the first few tiers. And in there you've also got exclusive emojis and a loyalty badge for every month that you remember on top. So the link should be in the description for that, or you can click the join button next to the subscribe button if you're on a PC or Mac. Anyway, back to the video. So power 4, Psychic Cleanse, is a Witchfire power. It's got a warp charge value of 6, and if manifested, roll 1d6 for each enemy model within 9 inches of the Psyker, and on a 6, that model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound. This one's pretty terrible, I'd say, at the very least. The range is extremely short. It's also done per model, not per unit. So if you manage to be in range of say 1 cultist out of a 20-man cultist unit, you're only rolling 1 dice here for that 1 model. Against a horde unit it could be okay, but I'd just opt to use Smite over this. Of course, if you manage to get in the mix of your opponent's units with 1 Psyker, then you've got many units within 9 inches, so that could be good, but to do that it would be suicide. And doing it with backup would fill up a lot of space within that 9-inch bubble, so you can never reach its full potential doing that. I'd avoid this one. Power 5, Mantle of Shadow, is a blessing which is warp charge 6. So you select one friendly Deathwatch infantry unit within 12 inches of the Psyker, and until the start of the next psychic phase, if that unit does not shoot or declare a charge, enemy models cannot target that unit with ranged attacks unless they are within 12 inches of it or they are the closest eligible unit. Now notice they've used the word closest eligible unit in that one. Going back to the FAQ issue with the third power there, Neural Void. So this one's really tactical. There's a few ways you'd want to use this. So firstly, you might have a unit on a secondary objective doing an action this round. So they're not going to be shooting or charging, and you can effectively make them invisible if they're shielded correctly. If enemy units are close by, then of course you wouldn't be using this because it won't work. It's going to instantly block the action from being successful anyway. The other way to use this would be to simply advance a unit up the board without being able to be seen. So a decent one, this one. Finally, power 6, which is Severance. It's a malediction power for warp charge value of 7. You select one enemy character unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Not only do you issue out a mortal wound to that character, but also until the start of the next psychic phase, reduce the range of that unit's aura abilities by 3 inch, and if the result of the psychic test was greater than the character's unit's leadership characteristic, then until the start of the next psychic phase, enemy units cannot benefit from that unit's aura abilities. So the straight mortal wound is pretty nice, and it's 18 inch range, so it's a good range to be doing this every round. Warp charge 7, so you're going to be doing this half the time. That doesn't include any of the command rerolls for your psychic tests. But the best part about this power is nullifying your opponent's buffing abilities. Even just losing 3 inches to the aura abilities is really strong, as a lot of players usually tend to try and maximise the range of abilities for multiple units. So they normally keep their HQs about 6 inches away from other units. So by removing 3 inches will be really damaging. And of course you can spike the dice and beat their leadership of the character, then turn them off completely, although this is quite unlikely as characters do have a high leadership. But there's always going to be that game where this does happen time to time. Just bear in mind it only affects the buffing abilities for their units rather than the nerfing abilities for your units, if you're turning them completely off, that is. So out of all the powers here, I really do favour the fortified with contempt, purely as it's my playstyle, as I like to have a tough resilient faction. This is coming from the days of playing Death Guard and now with Necrons. My Tyranids have a similar rule called Catalyst, which is virtually the same, and I use it pretty much every game, so I know exactly how powerful this power is. And for Marine players in general, having 2 wounds a pop makes it even more stronger. And like I mentioned previously, terminates with Storm Shields and a 5+ feel no pain roll is amazing. If my opponent run them down the centre of the board or deep struck them in, I'd be horrified. I also quite like the idea of Mantle of Shadow, as it brings the sneakier tactical player out of me. Feels a bit Raven Guard-like, being able to be hidden in the shadows while doing what needs to be done with actions, objectives, and just getting closer to strike. So guys, that's the 6 Xenopurge discipline powers from the Deathwatch Supplement covered for you. Which ones will you be making use of and how will you be utilising them? You'll have to let me know in the comments below. And also, what psychers do you like using your powers with? We have recently been dropping some Deathwatch video reviews, so if you're interested in that, there will be a playlist as well, where we rate each unit out of 5 for a Planet 40k rating. Remember to subscribe for regular content and hit that like button below if the video has been of any help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.